A driver delivers food to the wrong address on purpose, and what happens next exposes a disturbing pattern. This is the documented case of Sarah Martinez and the events of July 22, 2024, in Phoenix, Arizona. Sarah Martinez was a 32-year-old elementary school teacher living in the Arcadia neighborhood of Phoenix. She had taught second grade at Desert Hills Elementary for 6 years. Her principal, Linda Crawford, described her as dedicated and beloved by students and parents alike. Sarah had this gift for making every child feel special, Crawford told investigators. She was exactly the kind of teacher every parent hopes their child will have. Sarah lived in a small rental house on a quiet residential street. According to her landlord, she was a model tenant who always paid rent on time and kept the property in excellent condition. Her neighbors described her as friendly but private. She had recently ended a long-term relationship and was living alone for the first time in several years. On July 22, 2024, Sarah was preparing for the upcoming school year. According to her laptop's browsing history, she had been shopping online for classroom supplies throughout the afternoon. At 7:33 p.m., she ordered dinner through Uber Eats. She selected items from a Mexican restaurant called Casa Grande: 2 tacos, chips and salsa, and a horchata. The order totaled $19.62. The delivery was assigned to a driver named Jennifer Walsh. According to Uber Eats records, Walsh had been driving for the platform for approximately 9 months. She had completed nearly 800 deliveries and maintained a 4.8-star rating. Her background check had shown no criminal history, but investigators would later discover that Jennifer Walsh's clean record masked a troubled reality. According to the app's tracking data, Walsh picked up Sarah's order from Casa Grande at 7:48 p.m. The restaurant's manager confirmed the pickup. Security footage showed a woman matching Walsh's description collecting the order. The GPS tracking showed Walsh driving toward Sarah's address. The route was straightforward, approximately 2.6 miles through residential streets. Under normal conditions, the drive should have taken about 7 minutes. Walsh arrived in Sarah's neighborhood at 7:57 p.m., but instead of going directly to Sarah's house, the GPS data showed Walsh's vehicle driving past Sarah's address and parking 2 houses down. The vehicle remained stationary for 3 minutes. At 8:01 p.m., Sarah received a notification that her order had been delivered. The app showed a photo of the food bag sitting on a porch. Sarah looked at the photo and immediately noticed something wrong. The porch in the image was not hers. The house number visible in the photo was not her address. Sarah sent a message through the app stating the delivery was at the wrong location. Walsh responded at 8:02 p.m. "Sorry, GPS must have glitched. I'm still nearby. I'll bring it to you." Sarah waited. At 8:07 p.m., there was a knock at her door. Sarah opened it expecting to see the delivery driver with her food. Instead, according to court testimony, Walsh was standing on the porch, empty-handed. What happened in the next few moments would save Sarah's life. According to Sarah's testimony, Walsh immediately pushed past her into the house. Sarah described Walsh as aggressive and agitated. Walsh grabbed Sarah by the arm and tried to pull her deeper into the house. Sarah resisted and screamed for help. Sarah's neighbor, Thomas Bennett, was in his front yard 2 houses away. He heard the scream and looked toward Sarah's house. He saw what appeared to be a physical altercation in the doorway. Thomas immediately called 911 while running toward Sarah's house. Walsh released Sarah and fled to her vehicle. According to Thomas's testimony, Walsh ran to a silver Toyota Camry and drove away at high speed. Thomas reached Sarah's house within seconds. Sarah was shaken but physically unharmed. She told Thomas that the delivery driver had attacked her. Phoenix Police Department units arrived at 8:12 p.m. Sarah provided a detailed statement describing what had occurred. Officers immediately obtained the Uber Eats order information and identified Jennifer Walsh as the driver. While taking Sarah's statement, officers noticed something significant. Sarah's front door had scratches around the lock mechanism that appeared fresh. Inside Sarah's house, near the entrance, officers found a small bag that did not belong to Sarah. The bag contained zip ties, duct tape, a knife, and latex gloves. This discovery transformed the incident from a simple assault to something far more sinister. Detectives obtained Jennifer Walsh's registered address and sent units to the location. Walsh's vehicle was in the driveway. Officers established a perimeter and attempted to make contact. Walsh did not respond. After obtaining a search warrant, officers entered the residence at 10:43 p.m. Walsh was not there. But what investigators found inside the house was deeply disturbing. In Walsh's bedroom, detectives discovered a wall covered with printed screenshots. The screenshots showed delivery addresses, names, and notes. There were over 30 addresses documented. Sarah Martinez's address was among them, with the notation: "Lives alone, works during day, recent breakup per social media." Investigators also found a laptop. Forensic analysis revealed Walsh had been systematically researching women she had delivered food to. She had accessed social media profiles, conducted reverse address lookups, and compiled detailed information about her targets. According to digital forensic expert Dr. Michael Rodriguez, who testified at trial, Walsh had created spreadsheets categorizing potential victims. The categories included living situation, work schedule, security measures, and what Walsh termed vulnerability factors. Evidence showed Walsh had returned to multiple addresses after making deliveries. Security footage from 3 different neighborhoods showed Walsh's vehicle parked near previous delivery addresses, sometimes for extended periods. In 2 cases, homeowners had reported seeing a woman matching Walsh's description walking around their property days after a delivery had been made. The investigation expanded to determine if Walsh had victimized anyone else. Detectives contacted all 30-plus individuals whose addresses appeared in Walsh's documents. 23 agreed to speak with investigators. 4 women reported incidents they had not previously reported to police. 1 woman said Walsh had tried to enter her apartment uninvited after making a delivery. Another said Walsh had returned to her house 3 days after a delivery, claiming she needed to verify the order. A 3rd woman said she had found Walsh looking through her car window in a parking lot. The 4th reported that items had gone missing from her porch after Walsh made a delivery. Prosecutors would later argue these were escalating attempts leading up to the attack on Sarah Martinez. A multi-agency manhunt was launched for Walsh. Her photo was distributed to law enforcement across Arizona and neighboring states. On July 23rd, a tip came from Tucson. A hotel clerk recognized Walsh from news coverage and called police. Tucson Police Department officers responded to the hotel at approximately 3 p.m. They found Walsh in her room. She was arrested without incident. Evidence seized from the hotel room included a laptop, multiple prepaid phones, and handwritten notes about delivery routes. Walsh was transported back to Phoenix and charged with burglary, assault, attempted kidnapping, and stalking. Prosecutors argued the evidence showed Walsh had been planning to kidnap Sarah Martinez and potentially others. The trial began in March 2025. The prosecution presented a comprehensive case built on physical evidence, digital records, and witness testimony. Phoenix Police Detective Amanda Foster testified about the evidence recovered from Walsh's home. She described the wall of addresses, the research documents, and the pattern of returning to previous delivery locations. Dr. Rodriguez explained his forensic analysis of Walsh's digital devices. He testified that the search history and documents showed extensive premeditation and planning. Walsh had been targeting women systematically over several months. Security expert James Patterson testified about the bag found at Sarah's house. He explained that the items in the bag, zip ties, duct tape, knife, and gloves, were consistent with a kidnapping kit. Sarah Martinez testified about the attack. She described how Walsh had pushed into her house and grabbed her. She explained how she had fought back and screamed, which brought her neighbor running. Her testimony was emotional but detailed. Thomas Bennett corroborated Sarah's account. He described hearing the scream, seeing the altercation, and calling 911. The defense argued that Walsh had mental health issues and was not in control of her actions. They presented testimony from a psychiatrist who had evaluated Walsh after her arrest. The psychiatrist testified that Walsh showed signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder and paranoid ideation. However, the prosecution countered with evidence of planning and deliberation. The detailed notes, the research, the reconnaissance visits to previous addresses all demonstrated awareness and intent. Walsh knew what she was doing was wrong, which is why she had used delivery work as a cover. Criminal psychologist Dr. Elena Vasquez testified for the prosecution about Walsh's behavior patterns. She explained that the escalation from surveillance to attempted abduction was consistent with predatory criminal behavior. Walsh had been testing boundaries and building up to more serious crimes. The jury deliberated for 2 days. On March 28, 2025, they returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Walsh was found guilty of first-degree burglary, aggravated assault, attempted kidnapping, and aggravated stalking. During the sentencing phase, Sarah Martinez delivered a victim impact statement. She described the trauma of being attacked in her own home. She explained how she no longer felt safe in the place where she should feel most secure. She spoke about the lasting psychological impact of knowing someone had been watching her, planning to harm her. 3 other women who had been targeted by Walsh also spoke. They described how Walsh's actions had violated their sense of security and safety. They expressed gratitude that Sarah had fought back and prevented Walsh from completing her plan. The judge sentenced Walsh to 28 years in prison. She will be eligible for parole after serving 85% of her sentence, which means she will remain incarcerated for at least 23.8 years. Walsh filed an appeal based on the mental health defense. The Arizona Court of Appeals denied the appeal in September 2025, stating that evidence of premeditation outweighed claims of diminished capacity. Jennifer Walsh is currently incarcerated at Arizona State Prison Complex Perryville. She is housed in the Lumley Unit Medium Security Facility. Following this case, Uber Eats implemented additional safety protocols. The company now requires drivers to take a selfie before each shift to verify identity. The app also includes a feature allowing customers to share delivery tracking with friends or family in real time. If a delivery is marked complete at an address that doesn't match GPS coordinates, the system flags it for review. Arizona legislators introduced the Gig Worker and Customer Safety Act in January 2026. The proposed legislation would require all gig economy platforms to conduct quarterly background checks on workers and implement real-time monitoring systems for deliveries. This 2024 case stands as a documented example of how criminals exploit access granted by legitimate work. It demonstrates the importance of trusting instincts when something feels wrong. Sarah Martinez's willingness to fight back and her neighbor's quick response prevented a tragedy. For Sarah and the other women targeted by Jennifer Walsh, the psychological impact continues. Sarah has since moved to a different neighborhood and installed extensive security systems in her new home. She continues to teach but says she'll never feel as safe as she did before July 22nd. Justice, as defined by the American legal system, was served. Jennifer Walsh will spend decades in prison for her crimes, but the trauma inflicted on her victims cannot be erased by any sentence. Their lives were forever changed by someone who used the trust inherent in a food delivery to plan something far more sinister. A woman orders dinner through a delivery app, expecting her meal within 30 minutes. Instead, she vanishes without a trace. This is the documented case of Amanda Chen and the events of March 14, 2023, in Sacramento, California. Amanda Chen was a 26-year-old graphic designer living in the Natomas neighborhood of Sacramento. According to friends and co-workers, she was responsible, organized, and safety conscious. She lived alone in a ground-floor apartment and worked from home 3 days a week. Her neighbor, Patricia Rodriguez, described her as friendly but private. She always said hello, Patricia told investigators, but she kept to herself mostly, never seemed to have any problems. On the evening of March 14, 2023, Amanda was working late on a client project. According to her laptop's activity logs, she was actively working until approximately 8:45 p.m. At 8:52 p.m., she opened the Uber Eats application on her phone. She placed an order from a local Thai restaurant called Bangkok Express: pad Thai, spring rolls, and mango sticky rice. The order total was $23.47. The delivery app assigned the order to a driver named Michael Torres. According to Uber Eats records, Torres was a registered driver who had been working for the platform for approximately 7 months. He had completed over 600 deliveries and maintained a 4.7-star rating. Nothing in his background check had raised any red flags, but something about Michael Torres's profile was about to reveal itself. According to the app's GPS tracking, Torres picked up Amanda's order from Bangkok Express at 9:04 p.m. The restaurant manager, Somchai Prakash, confirmed to police that a man matching Torres's description had collected the order. The restaurant's security footage showed Torres entering at 9:02 p.m., waiting at the counter, and leaving with a bag at 9:04 p.m. The GPS tracking showed Torres driving from the restaurant toward Amanda's apartment complex. The route was direct, approximately 3.2 miles. Under normal traffic conditions, the drive should have taken about 8 minutes, but Torres's vehicle made an unexpected stop. At 9:11 p.m., according to the GPS data, Torres's phone stopped moving. It remained stationary in the parking lot of a closed office building for 4 minutes. Court documents would later reveal that during this stop, Torres made a phone call. The call was to a prepaid cell phone. The conversation lasted 92 seconds. At 9:15 p.m., Torres's vehicle resumed moving toward Amanda's apartment. He arrived at 9:18 p.m. Security cameras at Amanda's apartment complex captured his vehicle, a dark blue Honda Accord, entering the parking lot. The timestamp on the footage reads 9:18 and 37 seconds p.m. What happened next would become the focus of intense investigation. Amanda's phone records showed that at 9:19 p.m., she received a notification that her delivery had arrived. The Uber Eats app indicated the driver was outside. According to the app's internal messaging system, Torres sent Amanda a message at 9:20 p.m. stating, "Here with your order. Buzzer not working. Can you come down?" This message would later be identified as a critical piece of evidence. Amanda's apartment building did have a functional buzzer system. Multiple other delivery drivers had used it successfully that same evening. Security footage from Amanda's building showed her exiting through the main entrance at 9:22 p.m. She was wearing gray sweatpants and a black hoodie. She was not carrying her phone. According to forensic analysis of her apartment, her phone remained on her kitchen counter. The security camera captured Amanda walking toward the parking lot. Then she moved out of frame. The camera angle did not cover the parking lot itself. This would become a significant obstacle in the investigation. At 9:47 p.m., Amanda's roommate from college, Jessica Wu, tried calling Amanda. The call went to voicemail. Jessica tried 2 more times with the same result. She then sent several text messages. None were read or responded to. At 10:32 p.m., concerned by the lack of response, Jessica called Patricia Rodriguez, Amanda's neighbor, whom she'd met during a previous visit. Jessica asked Patricia to check on Amanda. Patricia knocked on Amanda's apartment door multiple times. There was no answer. Patricia then called the apartment complex's security. Security personnel performed a welfare check at 10:51 p.m. When Amanda did not answer, and given the concerns expressed by her friend, they used a master key to enter the apartment. The apartment was empty. Amanda's phone was on the kitchen counter. Her wallet and keys were on a table by the door. Her laptop was open on the couch, still logged into her work files. There was no sign of Amanda Chen. The security guard immediately contacted the Sacramento Police Department. Officers arrived at 11:14 p.m. They reviewed the security footage and quickly identified that Amanda had left the building to meet a delivery driver at 9:22 p.m. and had not returned. Detectives obtained the Uber Eats order information and identified Michael Torres as the assigned driver. According to the app, Torres had marked the delivery as complete at 9:24 p.m. He had uploaded a photo showing the food bag sitting on a doorstep. However, the doorstep in the photo did not match Amanda's building. The photo was taken at a different location entirely. Officers attempted to contact Torres. His phone was turned off. They obtained his registered address and sent units to the location. Torres was not there. His vehicle was not there. The landlord at that address informed police that Torres had moved out 2 weeks earlier without providing a forwarding address. Detectives quickly discovered that Michael Torres was not who he claimed to be. The driver's license and social security number used to register with Uber Eats belonged to a real Michael Torres, but that man lived in Arizona and had never worked as a delivery driver. His identity had been stolen. The person driving for Uber Eats under his name was someone else entirely. The investigation intensified. Detectives analyzed the phone number associated with the account. It was registered to a prepaid phone purchased with cash at a convenience store. Security footage from that store showed a man purchasing the phone 3 months earlier, but the image quality was poor. Investigators obtained records for the prepaid phone Torres had called from the parking lot at 9:11 p.m. That phone belonged to another stolen identity. The call had been made to coordinate the crime. This suggested Torres was not acting alone. A break in the case came from an unlikely source. A traffic camera 2 blocks from Amanda's apartment complex had captured Torres's Honda Accord at 9:26 p.m. The vehicle was heading east, away from the restaurant and Amanda's apartment. Enhanced analysis of the footage revealed 2 people in the front seats, and there appeared to be someone in the back seat. Detectives worked with the California Highway Patrol to track the vehicle's path. Additional traffic cameras showed the Honda traveling on Interstate 5 North, exiting at Elk Grove Boulevard at 9:53 p.m. The trail went cold after that. On March 15th, at 6:47 a.m., a groundskeeper at William Land Park discovered Amanda's body. She was found in a wooded area near the golf course. She had sustained fatal injuries consistent with strangulation. The Sacramento County coroner later determined she had been deceased for approximately 8 hours. Evidence at the scene included tire tracks matching Torres's Honda Accord. Forensic analysts found fibers in Amanda's clothing that would later be matched to the interior of that vehicle. But there was no identification on the body and no phone that could be traced. The case was now a homicide investigation. Detectives reviewed Torres's delivery history. Over the previous 7 months, he had delivered to over 40 addresses. Investigators contacted individuals at those addresses. 3 women reported concerning behavior. One said Torres had tried to look into her apartment when she opened the door. Another said he had asked personal questions about whether she lived alone. A third said he had returned to her building after making a delivery, claiming he had delivered to the wrong apartment. Prosecutors would later argue these were reconnaissance missions. Torres was evaluating potential targets. On March 16th, detectives received a tip. A man matching the description of the person in the convenience store footage had been seen at a motel in Stockton. Officers responded and located the Honda Accord in the parking lot. They established surveillance and waited. At approximately 2 p.m., a man emerged from one of the rooms. He matched the physical description from witness statements. Officers moved in to detain him. He attempted to flee but was apprehended after a brief foot chase. The man refused to identify himself. His fingerprints were run through multiple databases. He was identified as Robert James Mitchell, age 34, with a criminal record in Nevada and Oregon. He had outstanding warrants for identity theft and fraud in both states. Inside the motel room, investigators found multiple fake IDs, several prepaid phones, and a laptop. Forensic analysis of the laptop revealed Mitchell had created over 20 fake profiles on various delivery platforms using stolen identities. He had detailed notes on numerous addresses, including photos and descriptions of residents. Amanda Chen's address was in those notes. Mitchell had delivered to her building twice before March 14th using different fake accounts. Further evidence showed Mitchell had been communicating with another individual. Text messages revealed they had planned what prosecutors called a delivery abduction scheme. The plan involved accepting delivery orders to scope out potential victims, then using the delivery as a pretext to lure victims out of their homes. The second individual was identified as Carl Wayne Stevens, age 41. Stevens had an extensive criminal history, including assault and kidnapping. He was arrested at his residence in Sacramento on March 17th. Evidence seized from his home included Amanda Chen's phone and personal items. DNA evidence linked Stevens to Amanda's body. Mitchell and Stevens were both charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Prosecutors argued the crime was premeditated and carried out with special circumstances that made it eligible for the maximum sentence under California law. The trial began in September 2023. The prosecution presented a comprehensive case built on GPS data, security footage, forensic evidence, and digital records. According to court documents, prosecutors argued Mitchell had been running a criminal operation using delivery platforms to identify and access victims. Stevens was his partner in executing the abductions. Digital forensic expert Dr. Sarah Williams testified about the evidence recovered from Mitchell's devices. She explained how the GPS data, app records, and surveillance footage created a timeline that definitively placed Mitchell at Amanda's apartment complex at the time of her disappearance. Sacramento County Medical Examiner Dr. James Patterson testified about the cause of death. He explained that Amanda had died from asphyxiation. The time of death was consistent with the timeline established by other evidence. Detective Maria Gonzalez, the lead investigator, testified about the motel room evidence and the communications between Mitchell and Stevens. She described how the text messages revealed planning and coordination of the crime. The defense argued there was reasonable doubt about Mitchell's specific intent. They claimed he was a delivery driver who made poor decisions but did not intend to harm anyone. However, the digital evidence proved otherwise. Mitchell's notes about potential victims, his pattern of returning to certain addresses, and his coordination with Stevens painted a clear picture of premeditation. Stevens's defense argued he was not present at the time of the abduction, but DNA evidence and witness testimony placed him in Mitchell's vehicle that night. A gas station attendant testified that he had seen two men in a Honda Accord, matching the description of Mitchell and Stevens at approximately 10 p.m. on March 14th. Security footage from that gas station corroborated this testimony. The jury deliberated for 4 days. On October 12, 2023, they returned guilty verdicts on all counts for both defendants. Mitchell was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. Stevens was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. During the sentencing phase, Amanda's mother, Susan Chen, delivered a victim impact statement. She described her daughter as a talented, kind person with her whole life ahead of her. She spoke about the unbearable pain of losing a child. She addressed the defendants directly, telling them they had destroyed not just Amanda's life, but the lives of everyone who loved her. Amanda's father, David Chen, also spoke. He described how his family would never recover from this loss. He said that no sentence could ever be sufficient justice for what had been taken from them. The judge sentenced Mitchell to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Stevens received the same sentence. Both defendants filed appeals, which were denied by the California Court of Appeals in June 2024. Mitchell is currently incarcerated at California State Prison, Sacramento. Stevens is housed at Folsom State Prison. Both men will die in prison. This case exposed serious vulnerabilities in the gig economy delivery system. Following Amanda Chen's murder, Uber Eats implemented enhanced identity verification protocols. These include biometric verification, real-time photo verification before each shift, and more frequent background checks. Other delivery platforms adopted similar measures. California lawmakers introduced legislation requiring delivery platforms to conduct more rigorous screening of drivers and to provide safety features for both drivers and customers. The Amanda Chen Safety Act, passed in January 2024, mandates that all gig economy platforms operating in California must implement enhanced identity verification and provide in-app emergency assistance features. This 2023 tragedy stands as a documented case in American criminal history. It demonstrates how criminals exploit trust in everyday systems. It highlights the importance of verification and accountability in the gig economy. For the Chen family, every day is marked by the absence of their daughter. Justice, as defined by the American legal system, was served. But no amount of justice can bring back Amanda or heal the wounds left on her family and community. And,